Okay, hello again. Now let's get into the sentence equivalence problems in section 3 of the PDF. So let's start off with number 15. It says the slower learning monkeys searched blank, but unintelligently. Although they worked closely together, they chose only the most obvious hiding places. So what do you think about this blank? What filler word could you imagine here? If you notice, there is a semicolon. This is actually a mirror sentence again. What comes before the semicolon is exactly mirrored by what comes after. It says the slower learning monkeys searched blank, but unintelligently. Okay, we have a blank and we have unintelligent. Then it says, although they worked closely together, they checked only the most obvious hiding spots. Which of those two halves, working closely together or checking the most obvious hiding spots, only the most obvious hiding spots, would match unintelligently? Probably the second half, right? So our blank, I would say, is matched with worked closely together. In fact, I might just put it there. I would imagine worked closely together in the blank instead of like just imagining my own filler word. And then let's compare the answers. So we have competitively, impulsively, cooperatively, deviously, craftily, and harmoniously. What two words work with working together? I would say cooperatively and harmoniously, right? There you go. So deviously, craftily, they're synonyms, but they don't match. They don't match the blank. They don't work with the blank. So, all right, let's keep going. By about age 8, children's phonetic capacities are fully developed, but still blank. Thus, children at that age can learn to speak at a new language with a native speaker's accent. They can speak fully developed. Okay, they have fully developed speech patterns and ability, but they could still do something. And then it says that the children at that age can learn to speak in a new language with the native speaker's accent. So maybe just learn, but still able to learn would be my filler words. Let's see what matches with an ability to learn. We have plastic, vestigial, inarticulate, unformed, nascent, and malleable. I would say having an ability to learn and adapt is closest to malleable. Which of these other words do you think is a synonym to malleable? If you guess plastic, then you're right. So plastic originally just means anything that can be changed and morphed. I think that's why they called plastic, because it can be melted into anything. Think of the phrase brain plasticity. That's kind of the easiest way to remember that plastic means malleable. All right, let's keep going. In medieval philosophy, every physical phenomena is presumed to have some determinate cause, meaning a measurable cause or predictable, leaving no place for blank in the explanation of particular events. The opposite of determinate cause would be in this blank here. What would be the opposite of something predictable, measurable? Group them if you need. I would group together happenstance and chance, and also error and miscalculation. So we have two pairs to choose from. If you guess happenstance and chance, you're correct. That would be the opposite of something predictable, something you can calculate. Error and miscalculation are just not the right connotation here. you might think of it as like the difference between Newtonian physics and quantum physics. Like medieval philosophy was Newtonian physics, I guess, even though he's after medieval times. And then basically leaving no place for quantum mechanics in the explanation of particular events. If that makes sense to you, it doesn't have to. All right, although the film is rightly judged imperfect by most of today's critics, the films being created today are blank it. Okay. Since its release in 1940, provoked sufficient critical discussions to enhance the intellectual respectability of cinema. Okay. The discussion is what made the film respectable. Yeah, made films respectable today. So even though in the past, I guess, in the past films were, this film, sorry, was imperfect, the discussions that came about from the film have made the films today better off. Some people falsely choose here something about it's came from it, based on, or derivative of. But what comes after the blank is not, since the release in 1940s, most films have like followed the same plot path or something. No, it says the discussion has increased the respectability of films today. It does not say anything about copying. So you can almost say they are indebted to, or they're better because of the previous film. And that would leave A and B as the only answers that work. You know, with the GRE, it's really important that you kind of choose only an answer that has tangible proof. If you choose an answer that it just feels like the right answer, it's likely going to be wrong. You have to choose something that you can look and find exact evidence for, because remember, it is an exam, and they have to choose an answer that they would be like able to defend in court, basically. Okay. And basically, the evidence here is that it only was enhanced because of a discussion that came about from the earlier film. We know that it's getting better because of something else, which is to say that it is almost indebted to it. But they don't say anything about copying it, basically. All right, so let's do the last one. The detective's conviction that there were few inept crimes in her district led her to impute some degree of blank to every suspect she studied. So inept, by the way, means to be like unskilled or clumsy. So we have clumsy criminals. Or at least that's what, let's read it again. It says there were few inept criminals. So we would think we must have a bunch of masterminds, criminal masterminds then. At least that's what the detective thinks. If she thinks that there are many criminal masterminds, she would impute what degree of, or some degree of what, to her suspects when she studies her suspects or does research on them or whatever, interrogates them. She would probably need to be focused. She would need to be, I don't know, have good judgment. What here is synonymous to having good judgment? I'll group them for you. We have acumen and shrewdness. They come together. We have equivocation and evasiveness. They kind of go together. To speak equivocatively. Whoa. Equivocatively. I think that's a word. I'm not sure, but it basically means to speak around a subject, to get around what you're supposed to talk about, to be evasive with your speech. Deceit and duplicity go together as well. So we actually have 3 pairs. We're not trying to trick our suspects. So deceit and duplicity don't work. We're not trying to, evasive speaking doesn't work either. Acumen and shrewdness literally mean to have good judgment, by the way. So they would definitely be the right answers here. Notice how there are actually 3 pairs in this one. It's kind of rare. Usually there are just 2 pairs. But pairing your synonyms is a great strategy, by the way, because it increases your chances of getting the question right, like exponentially. If you were to randomly choose two out of the 6 words, you would have a 1 out of 6 or a 1 out of 30 chance of being correct. If you knew the pairs, even without reading the sentence, if you were to randomly select one of the 3 pairs, you'd have 1 out of 3 chance. So that's how important studying vocabulary can be for the sentence equivalence problems. But, all right, I will see you next time.